Good afternoon. I'll call the special called emergency meeting to order. Sir, please call the roll.
Mayor Morgan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Basie,
Here.
Councilmember Young, Councilmember Young,
Here.
Councilmember Flores,
Here.
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Peckham,
Present.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Here.
Citizen communication. Any citizen wishes to speak during citizen communication regarding an item on or off the agenda may do so after completing the required registration card. All comments must be no more than 3 minutes in length. Any comments regarding items not on the posted agenda may not be discussed or responded to by the city council. The mayor may deny any presenter the opportunity to address the city council. The presentation or comments offered is substantially repetitive of those previously made per section 2-26BD of the Round Rock Code of Ordinances 2018. Is there anybody here to speak? No one on Zoom.
No, sir.
All right. Ordinances. D1, consider an emergency ordinance pursuant to section 3.14 of the Round Rock Home Rule Charter declaring that a public health emergency exists, establishing requirements for commercial entities to post public notice, and requiring the wearing of face coverings in certain situations. First reading only, second reading not required. Let me tell you what we're going to do here. I would like for Steve to give a brief overview of what we're doing, what the ordinance reads. I'm going to have some comments after Steve, and then I'll open it up for any discussion or any other comments made by the council. So, Steve, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. So as the caption says, this ordinance is an emergency ordinance pursuant to section 3.14 of the Round Rock Home Rule Charter. This is a provision that has not been utilized, in my belief, since the charter was adopted back in 1977. This is a different procedure than has been done in the recent past with respect to executive orders under Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code. Chapter 418 is a provision of the statutes that allows the governor, the county judge, or a mayor to issue executive orders in response to a disaster. So while this is similar to the Texas statute, it is a totally separate and different procedure that does not depend upon, the action of the governor or the county judge or even the mayor cannot issue an order under section 314 of the Round Rock City Charter. So just to go over the ordinance quickly, I know that y'all have all had seen copies of this previously. Article 1 is the declaration of a public health emergency. So this is the first thing that the section 314 requires, is that the council actually declare that a public health emergency exists. The Article 1 goes into the reasons that we have a public health emergency and acknowledges that the governor has so declared, and as well as the Texas Department of State Health Services. Article 2 requires a notice to be posted by commercial entities at a place that's conspicuous for people coming into the commercial entity, stating that face coverings are required when in the business. And we have attached as part of the ordinance a sample notice that will meet the requirements of the statute or requirements of the ordinance. Of course, a business can include additional requirements if they so desire, and they can post their own notice if they want to, but the one that we've attached will comply with the ordinance. Article 3 is the mandatory is the provisions requiring mandatory face coverings for individuals. And so basically, it requires that all persons 10 years or older shall wear a face covering over their nose and mouth when inside a commercial entity or other building open to the public, where it is difficult to keep 6 feet away from persons or working in areas that involve close proximity with other people or coworkers. Or if they're outside, they are with a group of people where it is difficult to keep 6 feet away from other persons of the group. There are specified exceptions to this requirement that are contained in section 3.02. So the requirement does not apply when exercising or engaged in physical activity, when in a bank that requires security surveillance or screening, in a building that requires security surveillance or screening, such as banks, while consuming food or drink, when doing so poses a greater mental or physical health, safety, or security risk, when outside with a group of only members of a single household, or when other mitigation strategies such as plexiglass provides adequate separation. Article 4 are the penalties, and it's an escalating penalty that begins with the first, if the first violation is to be dealt with either a verbal or written warning. After the warning, if any person is found guilty of violating this ordinance after previously receiving a warning, the punishment shall be a fine not exceeding $200. Any person found guilty of violating this ordinance on a second time shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $500. And any person found guilty of violating this ordinance for a third or more times shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000. The section 314 of the charter says that an emergency ordinance shall be automatically repealed on the 61st day following the date of its adoption. Of course, it may be terminated sooner by the council or reenacted by the council if that is determined to be necessary. So with that, I will answer any questions that anybody has with respect to the ordinance.
Let me say a few words. First, I was hoping that we'd never have to get to this point. It's nothing that any of us have taken lightly, but the data and the evidence clearly show that hospitalizations and positivity rate are on the rise in Williamson County and in Round Rock. Let me tell you some of the things that we have done. I've consulted and collaborated with a number of mayors in Williamson County: Georgetown, Hutto, Taylor, Cedar Park, Leander. I expect that those entities will be putting out similar orders this week. So there will be uniformity and collaboration between the larger cities in Williamson County. Over the last week, I've been in contact with a number of business leaders, the Round Rock Chamber of Commerce, our faith-based community, and medical professionals. And the common theme from all of them was to create uniformity in our city and support. They all supported whatever action this council decided to take, because we're all in this together. Look, to this point, we've tried to do it with education, and I think that many of the things that we have done, besides some of the actions that we have taken, have helped. You are seeing a voluntary increase in mask, but I also think that there's still a number of people that are not wearing them. We all should play our part in this, businesses and individuals, for the health of our citizens and the health of our business community. Just this last couple of months, the cities and their own individual grant programs. Round Rock Cares was ours. And the county have given businesses over $32 million to keep them open. And so this is important for all of us. And the people that don't want to wear the mask, I get it. It's uncomfortable. This whole council believes in choice. But to keep our economy open and people with jobs, there are people that still have to go to work. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have a job that they can stay at home and do what they need to do to complete their work. We have people every day that are going out and working. And let me remind the citizens, we did a survey just back in April. And the number one concern from our citizens, even over contracting coronavirus, was the health of our economy, the business climate of Round Rock. People move here because of that business climate. People move here because of that can-do attitude that we have. Today's ordinance is a requirement on businesses as well as individuals to wear a mask. We all are in this together. It's a temporary order, as was mentioned. We can terminate it at any point, or we can extend it at any point. As City Attorney mentioned, this is an action taken under our charter, not Local Government Code 418. It's not an executive order. It is an order taken, an ordinance taken on behalf of the council where there has been at least a vote and not just order. We're doing what we think is right for Round Rock. We have always been a leader in doing what's right for its citizens and our community. Let me be very clear. Although their fines are in this is not to be heavy-handed, but we all expect our citizens to follow this and to do their part. As I mentioned earlier, none of this has been taken lightly by myself or any of these council members. And matter of fact, we've had probably long nights. It's one of those decisions I've never had to face in the 9 years that I've set up on this dais. It's not a 60, 70, 30 split, 60, 40. It's just split right down the middle. And as I've said, there will be people that want to try to divide us. But let me remind our citizens what happens when we're under crisis. Round Rock at one point was out of water. The city came together and found and bought water that we currently have today. We were in a deep depression back when Dell knocked on our doorstep. And we came together, and now Dell has put us on the map. There was controversy when the Round Rock Express came, but we worked through the solutions. We worked and solved the problems, and now it's one of our greatest quality of life assets that we have. And just recently, we walked through a Kalahari coming. It was a big deal, economic-wise. It wasn't just the most popular thing initially, and we worked together as a community. So all I'm doing and all this council is doing is asking for all of our citizens to come together. It's for a short period of time. I've been asked, well, what happens if it doesn't work? Well, what was the inconvenience? We had to wear a mask, and we can keep our businesses open. I fear more than anything, with the governor's actions last Friday, closing down bars, we are trying to keep from more of that happening. Because let me explain, this time if small businesses close, they won't open back up, a number of them. We had over almost 2,000, just 2,000 small businesses in Round Rock. Less than 50 employees apply for help. And we couldn't give them everything they requested. And we're thankful the county came in with their CARES program and helped supplement some of that. But that's my fear, is the health of my citizens and the health of our business community. It's not an either-or thing. I think this council has struggled adamantly about making this an enforcement on businesses and making the businesses be the enforcement mechanism, especially the ones that were deemed non-essential. Ask any business that's closed down if they feel like they were non-essential at this point. Ask any employee that has not been able to go back to work because they were deemed non-essential. It has a real cause and lasting effect. We're going to see the hit on our budget, but we're going to get through that. That's the least of my concerns. But if we have businesses shutter and close down, we have a long, long road to recovery. And so again, we don't take this lightly. I probably have not slept that much for the last week. I know this council has been weighted heavily, the staff, but we think this is the right move for Round Rock to move forward. And I ask people not to shame each other. That's not the time or place for it right now. Let's do this together. Let's be in this together and be that shining star on the hill and continue to be the place that people love, the people that want to be at, the people that come here, to continue to be on the top list of everything that you can think of. And so I'm asking the community to come together during this tough time, not only for our own health and the economic health of our business community. So with that, I will open it up to any questions or comments for our council members. I'm going to do the Zoom folks first. If you can just raise your hand to let me know you have a question or want to say a few words. Councilmember Baker, make sure you unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I want to briefly comment on this to explain my position on this matter. I base my opinions on input that I've received directly from those in the medical profession, as well as based on my own experiences and knowledge as a professional engineer and as a former director of a state environmental lab. In short, if we stay on the current trajectory, our hospitals are going to be nearing capacity in a matter of days. And whether we blame the spike on recent holidays, large group gatherings, the 20-somethings, I've heard it all. We can argue the cause, but for me, that's not really the issue. The key issue for me is that our hospitals are filling up. And I feel that we need to do our best to flatten the curve, make sure our hospitals can treat our sickest citizens, that they have room for them. And so how can we do that? First, I believe that it's fact that social distancing works. So I would like to see our community embrace that. Secondly, I believe it's also fact that masks work when used correctly. Some masks are made to protect the user who is wearing the mask by filtering out small particles that they're breathing in. Other masks are designed to be protective of the people around the user of the mask by catching the particles that the user may exhale when they laugh or sneeze or talk. The science behind masks is proven. The Occupational Health Administration, or OSHA for short, they require masks in certain work environments because they work. The Mayo Clinic, they have publicly stated masks work. The medical field knows that masks work when used correctly. We need to flatten the curve now, in my opinion. If we wait any longer to flatten the curve, I believe we will be too late in slowing the spread. And so based on my beliefs and based on the professionals I've talked to, I intend to support the stronger requirements for our community. For those that don't agree with me, I would ask, please, in this case, please go along with the inconvenience. Let's join together and minimize this virus in our city. So thank you.
Anybody else on the Zoom that wants to say it? Councilmember Montgomery.
Mayor and council, I just want to echo Councilmember Baker's concerns, thoughts. I believe that masks do work, and I think that it's the right thing to do for our citizens to make sure that we do whatever we can to make sure everyone is protected. And if this is the choice that we have, I hope that our citizens will embrace it and realize that we're putting it in place to protect them and adhere to the request.
Anybody else? Councilmember Young?
I just want to thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Steve. I know that, we have all in our own way struggled with what is the best response to what's happening today. And several of the options that we've explored for one reason or another just haven't felt right. So this option just covers all the bases for me, and I'm truly grateful, Mayor, for your leadership, Steve, for all that you've done to research and come up with the best legal way for us to protect our citizens. So thank you so much to both of you, and I'm glad that we have this before us today so that we can start to see hopefully a reversing trend in our community.
Anybody else on the Zoom? Mayor Pro Tem, you're good? Councilmember Peckham?
I think a lot of the comments have already been echoed by my peers, and I appreciate your leadership through this matter, Mayor. I know it has not been easy on any of us with what's coming, but the thing that is not going to be easy is if we have to start shutting businesses back down again and people start losing their jobs. And we've got to, as Councilmember Baker said, we've got to flatten the curve a little bit more here. Our numbers are coming up. It's data-driven. It's by what is going on with the hospitals. And I think that that's the most important thing that's kind of here is we've got to get through this in the short term, help our businesses stay open, help those that they employ, and in our community along with our citizens. And so there's never a great solution to a lot of problems, but sometimes you got to come down and do what's right. And I feel like this is the right thing to do at the right time.
Thank y'all. Yeah, this is, one of the concerns I think with the whole council was that this was being passed on to the backs of our businesses. And I think this allows us to have everybody play their part, all the individuals that frequent these businesses, because that's what we want. We want people to continue to frequent the businesses, but wear masks when you can't socially distance inside, and just protect yourself and your fellow citizen. So if there's no more comments or discussion, you have anything? Steve, anything else for you?
The only thing I forgot to mention was that emergency ordinance requires 5 members of the council to adopt it. So it normally would be 4, but in this case, it's a supermajority of 5.
And do we have to, there's not a second reading required, but since we're here, would we dispense with it? Okay.
No. It'll, if it gets the 5 votes, then it's adopted.
Okay. Yes, that was a good question. So this will be effective at midnight on Tuesday night. So Wednesday will be the effective date. We're obviously going to allow businesses to get situated to post the correct signs. We're going to, again, this is going to be, we're going to do education. The one thing I did not mention, there's discretion in this, just like anything else we do in our under our laws and our ordinances, and there will be discretion from staff to be in this situation. This isn't to try to cause a controversy between businesses and individuals. It's just everybody doing their part and having the discretion to enforce if need be. And again, even if it gets to a point of a ticket, the judge still ultimately has discretion to hear the facts and do what the judge feels is right. So, any other questions or comments? All right. I will entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Young, second by Councilmember Montgomery. Is there any other discussion? Sarah, please poll the council.
Councilmember Young,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Peckham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Basie,
Yes.
Councilmember Montgomery,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you for being here and be safe. We're adjourned.